Today we get the story of this kind of typical mean girl that's harassing the subscriber, but don't worry, karma catches up to her. Leave a like in the video to claim your free nothing, and let's call this subscriber, let's call him Brian, right? So this all happened one day. During this day, right, Brian was kind of just minding his own business, and we're going to call the mean girl, we're just going to call her Kelsey. She was kind of known for being, this unnecessarily cruel to uphold an image, or at least that's what, we thought. Maybe she's just being cruel for sport. But anyways, right, she kind of comes up to Brian one day, and there's two of our friends watching this, so there's a chance Kelsey was doing this to kind of, like, keep her image as, like, top dog, mean person, or whatever. And the thing is, right, a little bit of context, Brian was one of our shorter people. He was one of our short kings, And the thing is, when you're a guy and you're short, it's just extra difficult, man, because there's a lot of things you can change about your appearance. Like, I don't know, you can take better hygiene, you can dress better, you can get a good hairstyle, but you really can't add inches to your height. You also really can't add inches to other places, but we aren't talking about that. But anyways, Kelsey comes up to him, and she's like, "How's the weather down there?" Just out of nowhere. And the thing is, right, maybe if Kelsey and, Brian were close friends, this would have been okay. But Kelsey and Brian, they didn't even not just know each other. They really didn't get along. They got in like a brief spat once in the past. And Brian kind of just gives her this look of like, what provoked this, man? Like, what provoked this? And Kelsey kind of just looks at him and says, I don't know, you're looking extra short today. And Brian kind of just gives her this look of like, why? Like, what? We haven't spoken in months. Like, why would this even be the case? Why are you saying this? This is when Brian kind of, like, looks a little bit past Kelsey and notices these, like, two girls. These other two girls, Brian didn't really know that well, but they also were kind of, like, mean-ish. But they were also, the most important thing is that they were popular, or at least they were considered popular. And I don't know what grade this was in, but it sounds like some 8th grade middle school behavior. But, they were popular, and they were also a grade above. So they were probably, let's say that they were 9th graders, right? So Brian is starting to put 2 and 2 together, and he's like, oh, she needs to look like top dog by, dunking on me for no good reason. And, Brian kind of just thought that interaction was going to be the last of it. But unfortunately, almost every single day, Brian would pass by Kelsey and these two girls, because for some reason, Kelsey and these two girls had an activity together. Maybe this activity was some kind of club or something. I don't even know. Maybe they were getting food together. Who knows at this point, right? But Brian had a class, or he had to do something that took him on this path every single day. So sure enough, the next day rolls around, and Brian thought that, he was going to pass by Kelsey and these girls and have no, problems, have no issues at all. But no, this time, right, Kelsey looks at him and says, hey, Brian. And in his head, he's like, you got to be kidding me. And she's like, hey, Brian. Brian just kind of looks at her like, dude, what do you want at this point? And she's like, I was talking to my friend Stacy. Well, let's say Stacy, right? I was talking to my friend Stacy, and she says to me, because I was talking about you. And Brian's just like, this can't be good, man. This can't be good. And, Kelsey's like, yeah, I was talking to Stacy, and when I brought up your name, she was like, oh, he's not a bad-looking guy. And Brian in his head is like, all right, where are you going with this? Kind of seems like you just dished me a compliment, but okay. And then Kelsey goes, yeah, she said, he's not a bad-looking guy, but he's too short. And at this point, he's just like, are you serious, bro? Really? Like, what did I do to you, dude? So unfortunately for Brian, every single day he would pass by Kelsey and her goons, basically, and every single day she would clown on him. And every single day it would get worse and worse. And like the stuff she was saying was more and more extreme and more out of pocket. Because what I'm thinking is that Kelsey thought that she can't be saying the same old stuff every single day. I mean, she did call him short every day. She didn't mix that up. But she was thinking to herself, it's going to get stale. I'm going to look weak if every single day I come with the same level of attack, right? So every single day, she just upped it a little bit. She just made what she said a little bit worse every single day. So one day, right, Brian is just getting lunch with his friend. And, Brian decides to unload on his friend and kind of just tell him everything that's been happening. And his friend, after hearing everything, is like, yeah, that's really messed up. Like, I know it's, only words and all, but that's got to be, really annoying. Like, that's got to be pretty tilting, especially the fact that she does it every single day, and it gets worse and worse. And Brian's like, yeah, and it sucks because I know she's just trying to do it because, like, you know, she wants to look big in front of the other, like, popular mean girls or whatever. But it kind of, I don't know. It's like, I'm kind of done with it. I'm kind of sick of it. And the friend looks at Brian and says, have you ever thought of, like, getting someone to intervene? And the friend, and Brian is like, dude, like, I could, but you know what happened in the past. What happened in the past, little mini story, is this girl, Kelsey, had been a jerk to someone in the past, right? Had been mean to this guy, had said something out of pocket, and the guy, you know, reported her. And then Kelsey went on a massive defensive, saying that she never said anything like that. And in fact, the other guy had been harassing her. And by the end of it, the other guy got in trouble and she didn't. And after that, she had a bit of a reputation that, like, if you turned her in, right, that she was going to come for your neck and that it just wasn't even worth it. So Brian, like, said this, and the other guy's like, all right, you know, that's a good point. I forgot about that. And they kind of sit there for a second. When the other guy turns to Brian with this look in his eyes, like, actually, I think I have an idea. So the friend of Brian says to him, why don't you just record what she says to you? And Brian's like, dude, she's not going to say anything if I have a camera pointed on her. And the guy's like, no. Just have a camera in your have your phone in your pocket, have it on, have voice memos going when you know you're going to see her, because you know when you're going to see her. And then hopefully, right, she says something out of pocket and boom, she can't deny it then and get you in trouble. And, you know, Brian's like, yeah, but, you know, maybe she'd say that I was saying stuff back and this recording was, like, taken out of context. And the guy's like, dude, she's going to do it every single day. She's not getting bored. It's been, like, I don't know. It was, like, 14 days in a row at this point. She's not getting bored. It's only going to get worse. And, like, she's only going to do this to other people, too. Like, maybe you just have to take one for the team here. And Brian's like, all right, that's fair enough. So sure enough, next day rolls around. Brian knows, like, you know, he's like, all right, so I'm going to be walking out of class, and within, like, a couple minutes, I'm going to, like, see her. So he made sure that he had enough storage on his phone. He actually tested his phone recording, like, turning on voice memos, and, like, his friend was, like, speaking to him from, like, 4 or 5 feet away. It caught it perfectly, so he wasn't worried about the audio. And he turns that on, puts it in his pocket, and makes it so it's not super obvious. And sure enough, right, Kelsey and her two, like, goons come up to him, and Kelsey, like, looks at him, and, you know, he kind of looks like, all right, what is it today? And Kelsey says, like, the most out-of-pocket thing she said so far, and she's gonna regret saying this. And anyways, Kelsey says, looks at him and says, short men should stop breeding because they are inferior. And when Brian heard this is a quote, by the way. By the way, I got this story on my Instagram in the description. Also, comment Instagram down below if you want a heart on your comment. Yeah, I got my story from Instagram, send them there. But anyways, right, when that was a quote I received, quote unquote, short men should stop breeding because they are inferior. What? So when Brian heard this, he was both like, he was pretty hurt by this. Like, he was like, wow, you're really coming for me. But he also was incredibly happy because he was like, wow, I just caught you saying the most damning thing you said so far. Let's go. So sure enough, right, Brian takes this to the principal, explains what happens, and the principal's like, all right, like, I can, like, get Kelsey in here, get her side. And Brian says, one thing before you do. And he shows the principal the recording, and she's like, wow, all right. And the principal says, okay, like, I'm gonna call her in here. We're gonna figure this out. And the thing is, right, Kelsey comes in, and she starts saying, once she's, like, told of what it was, because Brian said, hey, can you not tell her about the recording beforehand? And the principal is like, all right, like, that's fair enough. And, you know, Kelsey comes in, she's like, I never said anything to him. I've been nothing but sweet. In fact, it's been the other way around. I was nice to him, and he thought that I was hitting on him. So when I rejected him, he started calling me, like, you know, so insert words that, like, people degrade women with, right? This and this and that and that and that. And the principal's like, really? So you've never said anything bad to him? No, principal, I swear, I didn't say anything bad to him. And then the principal was basically just like, this you, question mark, and pulls out the phone recording because Brian had given her the phone. It was onto the voice memo. You know, since Brian started recording like a minute before, like the principal skipped like a minute into it. And sure enough, right, you heard Brian saying, what's up, like, what is it now? And then you heard the infamous line, short men should stop breeding because they're inferior, like that specific line. And Kelsey's just standing there because, like, you know, she's caught in the lie, She's not just caught in the lie, she was caught saying something pretty bad. Yeah, so the principal gave Kelsey 2 days of in-school suspension, and she also made Kelsey write an apology letter to Brian. Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it, do it.